the Minnesota Vikings. They finished their last year with a record of 14-3. Really, the big story with the Vikings last year was Sam Darnold, right? Massive breakout year from Sam Darnold. He had kind of hopped around a couple teams. He had spent, obviously 3 years with the Jets. He was kind of seen as, a potential savior, but as we've talked about, it's kind of hard for the Jets to develop quarterbacks. Spent 2 years in Carolina, a year as a backup in San Francisco. But going into Minnesota, starts 17 games, leads him to a 14-3 record. Whether or not you think a QB stat is a win. Has his career high in touchdowns, yards, attempts. Rating. He had one of the best.
He was one of the deep passers in the NFL. Not to interrupt you, but he was awesome with the deep ball last year. Which I'm sure. Yeah. Not
only was this his best season, but it was a season in which he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously, now the big thing is he took his talents to Seattle, so that's going to be a big change. And they got JJ McCarthy coming in. And I know we kind of wanted to get into Kevin O'Connell, but first I did kind of want to start with JJ McCarthy, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, man.
JJ McCarthy, obviously coming off that Michigan team, which as of today, when we're recording this, got handed some, in my opinion, light punishments from the NCAA due to the whole, Connor Stalions situation. But regardless, JJ McCarthy, exciting player coming out of college, now finally has, the reins of this team. And he's got one of the best receivers in the NFL to throw to in Justin Jefferson. Yep. So what do you think JJ McCarthy should take from a year under Sam Darnold to succeed with this Vikings team?
I think processing is number one, right? Because JJ McCarthy was in an offense that a lot of people say, oh, it was run heavy. He was a handoff merchant. He didn't really do much. They look at the national championship game. I think he went 9 of 20 or 10 of 21 with just over 100 yards. They're he was not the reason they won the national championship. No, he wasn't the reason. But the reason they even got there to begin with was because of JJ McCarthy. And especially on third down. In that year of college, he was far and above the best third down passer in all of college football. And it wasn't even close. I wish I had the graph or the numbers on me to kind of showcase on this podcast for the viewers at home rather than the listeners. But JJ McCarthy on third down was, in terms of EPA, conversion rate, yards on third down passes, and average depth of target on third down throws, he wasn't just dinking and dunking it and letting someone get yards. He was putting this ball 10 to 15 yards downfield on a 3rd and 4 on a backside dig and going through his whole read progression and saying, hey, I'm going to let this play develop. I'm going to trust my O-line. And if my O-line crumbles, I'm athletic enough to get out of the pocket and hit someone late on a throw and create a passing window that wasn't there in the concept. That's what JJ McCarthy is going to bring to the Vikings, which they're going to need. This offensive line is much improved from last year, but this offense, with how it's designed, is determinant on a quarterback being able to mitigate pressure. And out of that entire class, besides Jaden Daniels, because of his just straightaway speed, JJ McCarthy was one of the best at mitigating pressure. Caleb Williams was my favorite player in that class and my top player in that class. And even he struggled in pressure situations, right? Which we talked about in the NFC East episode. But JJ McCarthy brings a better flow in the pocket and more athleticism than Sam Darnold has ever brought forward in any time in his career, right? So I think JJ McCarthy is going to surprise a lot of people. And he might not be good right away out of the gate. He's going to have his normal struggles because he didn't have a true rookie season. We have to treat 2025 as a true rookie season for him. But with a full offseason in the Vikings facility under his belt, I think a lot of the hangups that normal rookie QBs have, he's going to get over those a lot faster. And having the best wide receiver in the NFL is going to help him with that. Having a top 5 tight end is going to help with that. Having a much improved offensive line is going to help that. And not only that, this defense is fucking nuts, dude. Top to bottom, which we'll get into the defense later, but oh my God, Brian Flores is a machine in terms of defensive pressure and stunts, and that alone is going to help JJ McCarthy out, even on opposite sides of the ball. Like, I'm super high on JJ McCarthy. I have been since he left Michigan. I had him ranked above Jaden Daniels, which in hindsight was kind of stupid, but it just showcases how good Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels were coming out of college. That if I put JJ McCarthy above Jaden Daniels and some of the shortcomings I thought Jaden Daniels have, he was able to exceed that. I can't wait to see what JJ McCarthy does in an offense as fleshed out and as multiple as this Vikings offense is, even with Jordan Addison being suspended, which we'll talk about how they're going to help mitigate that.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the defense, we obviously talk about the big change, right? JJ McCarthy is now in control of this team on the offensive side, but, there's still a lot of continuity. One big piece being head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, yeah.
This is his fourth year as head coach of the Vikings, and over the past 3 years, he's built a 34-17 record with this team. Fantastic for your first head coaching gig. Obviously, I think this is going to be a very coaching-heavy podcast in comparison to some others.
Oh, yeah.
But they really drive. They really drive the teams in this division. So for you, Kevin O'Connell, how quickly do you think he'll be able to adapt his game plan fully around a guy like JJ McCarthy?
I think he will really develop it, because I think every quarterback that he's had coming up to JJ McCarthy has kind of had a trait that combines into what JJ McCarthy is now, right? Like, you look at Kirk Cousins, he gets a lot of shit, especially with how he played this last year in Atlanta, but we're looking at someone who's really good in the short to intermediate game. And that's where he made his living and why he got such a big contract, is that where teams are looking for a big rocket arm passer, like when Mahomes came to the NFL, Kirk Cousins was exploiting that intermediate to short area better than any quarterback in the league, besides maybe your traditional top five. Like Tom Brady did a really good job of that, and he still had a great deep ball on top of it, right? So you have Kirk Cousins who could exploit that. Then you have your athletic quarterbacks like Jaron Hall and Josh Dobbs that Kevin O'Connell had to work with in 2023. J.J. McCarthy is a really good athlete that a lot of people don't realize because he didn't have to use it much, but he's got good speed, he's got good pocket mobility, and if he has to scramble, he's going to outspeed linebackers relatively easy. So you have those all together, working together, and then you have Nick Mullins, who's a decent backup and someone who you can just plug and play. Like, JJ has that plug and play ability. And I'm not saying that JJ is a backup level quarterback, but I'm just saying if JJ McCarthy didn't practice for a month, you could plug and play him and he's getting over a 60% completion rate. He's going to be able to be like, all right, cool, let's run quick slants. Let's run an out concept with hitch. Let's run a flood concept. I'll deliver the ball wherever it needs to go, even if it's to my fourth read in the flat. I'll get it there and I'll get us 10 yards in a cloud of dust in the pass game, right? What Kevin O'Connell, and that's without mentioning Sam Darnold's deep ball. JJ McCarthy has a strong arm. People don't realize that because Michigan ran the ball so much. But if you look at any of JJ McCarthy's deep passes in that last year at Michigan, man, his arm is so live. And his first preseason game against the Raiders, he was standing on the right hash and got the ball halfway into the end zone on the left side of the field. So he's throwing cross body this way and pins a receiver who wasn't open when he threw the ball. He threw him open. And yes, you can say it's preseason, they're going against backups, but when you look at football from that lens, you really lose the process and you lose what quarterbacks and what other position players are able to do in space. And as the play progresses, JJ McCarthy has awesome anticipation. He has a live arm. He's pretty athletic, and he can dink and dunk in the pass game, which kind of gets shit on, but is a very important part of quarterback play and why Tom Brady was able to play for 20 plus years. JJ McCarthy has that. And when you put all that together, you have a really damn good quarterback. And when you pair him with someone like Kevin O'Connell, who has had a QB shuffle for the past 3 years and still went 34-17, man, and they had the 12th ranked passing offense in those 3 years from an EPA perspective, That's awesome. Like, he finally has his guy he can tailor this offense to and say, hey, here's the play. Go do what you want to do with it. And he's probably going to struggle early on, but we're going to see like Bryce Young levels of resurgence in the second half of the season, because we'll get into this in the NFC North episode. Bryce Young was one of the best quarterbacks in the second half of 2024. JJ McCarthy is going to be the best quarterback in the back half of 2025. And this is going to be a hot take episode. Christian Mahogany, top 10 interior offensive lineman. JJ McCarthy is going to be the best week 9 to week 18 quarterback that we will see this year in the NFL. Assuming he doesn't get hurt. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, love that. And also, I wanted to point out something you highlighted. You talk about, people say he was, he handed the ball off way too much in college, but his junior year, the year that he won the national title with Michigan, he was 9 yards short of 3,000 on the season. So, I mean, look, the dude can throw. We should all acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk on the defensive side of the ball. You gave me a big list of defensive players that you
sorry
really
about that.
No, the more the merrier, right? I mean, we need to give the people some good analysis. So for you, I mean, just break down some of these guys and where you think they're going to be monsters heading into this regular season.
Absolutely. And it starts with Brian Flores at the top, right? He runs a super complex defense that a lot of teams, whoever plays the Vikings, is going to have a tough time with. Even some of the best. I mean, you see the Lions, right? Like, the Lions struggle to move the ball against this defense, and they see them twice a year. They get more film on these guys than any other team in the NFL, right? So what this defense does is, and this is the easiest way I can explain it, but Brian Flores will show like he's going to blitz 8 and then only bring 3 and drop the other 5. And that can happen 3 guys on the left, 3 guys on the right, 3 guys in the middle, or some weird combination where you could have the widest guys coming and the guy inside rushing the center, or 2 guys rushing the guards and then one of the apex players rushing, or some other combination, right? And there are other times where he'll have 3 lined up in head up on the center and 2 guys head up on the guards, and out of nowhere, right before this ball is snapped, he's bringing 6 to 7 guys, sometimes even 8, and he's saying, I'm putting everyone on an island. So with how he differentiates, and sometimes he'll drop defensive linemen in the coverage, like Harrison Phillips, I think out of all D tackles had the most coverage snaps. Like, that's in and of itself is crazy. And the fact that the defense is successful as it is with someone like that on this defense doing that, like, this defense is perfectly tailored to what he's trying to do. And it's all done with high-level role players. Like, the only, like, superstar, quote-unquote, they have in that defense is Harrison Smith, and he's going to retire within the next year or 2, or maybe he plays until he's 40. He's going to be 35 as a safety, let alone a white safety, and not to discriminate to my complexion counterparts, or my complexion compadres, but white DBs do not last in the NFL for that long. So that's in and of itself, right? But if we want to talk about who they've brought in and who's been great on this defense, we're just going to go PFF grades, just overall defensive grade, just to keep this short. And I know people have their hangups on PFF grades, but I think there's enough data out there now to kind of support how these grades work. But Jonathan Grenard, free agent pickup from the Texans, 80.8, great grade there. Byron Murphy, 72.8, his best year of his career so far as a cornerback. Blake Cashman, little bit of a step back from his time with the Texans, but fits perfectly into what this defense does from a coverage and blitz standpoint. Andrew Van Ginkel, one of the most underrated edges in the NFL in terms of pass rush and pressure rate, and just perfect fit. He can drop in coverage or rush the passer. He's awesome off the edge. Josh Metellus plays anywhere on the field. You could put him at free safety where he's the only one over the top. You could have him blitz from the slot, or he's even played edge rusher. Like, he can play wherever you ask him to and helps keep this defense multiple. 67.5, an above average defensive grade. And Ivan Pace Jr., one of the best blitzing linebackers in the league, at a 64.6. That's solely because of his blitz grade. Like, he is perfect for this defense and how they like to bring guys from different angles. Like, he's awesome, and he's going to get better in coverage and as a run defender. But to just ask him to come and rush the passer as an undrafted free agent and play as much as he does is really neat, right? So like those are 6 names that I think really stand out in this defense. Like obviously Harrison Smith is a rock on this defense and really sets the tone. Harrison Phillips, who I talked about earlier, like isn't a good player, but this system helps elevate him and allows this system to be multiple. He can line up as a true nose tackle, as a 0 tech, head up on the center, or he can widen out to a 5 tech and get after the pass. Like he can line up truly anywhere on this defensive line. And that's not including guys that they brought in like Jonathan Allen. Dallas Turner going to his second year as a pass rusher is going to develop and do well. Like there's a lot of guys on this defense who are going to do really friggin' well. And that's led to last year, at least they were second in EPA per play allowed, second in EPA per dropback allowed, and first in EPA per rush allowed. This was one of the best defenses in the entire NFL last year. And it's because of your typical role players who come together, are starters, and are perfect in this defense. And that all speaks to Brian Flores and what a genius he is on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And then I want to get into one guy that you feel like is going to be the dark horse for the Vikings, and that is Dwight McGlothern. What do you like?
Yes, sir. Well, he was my 12th cornerback in my 2024 prospect class, and he was a really good zone corner. And what this defense thrives in is zone coverage. They ran the second most zone last year at a 95.1% rate, which is just stupid. Jeez. They barely ran any man coverage. But when you have a defense with as many role players as this, and Brian Flores, who understands zone coverage better than anyone, you get the type of defense you do. And I think Dwight McGlothern kind of translates perfectly into this defense. You know, he did exceptionally well in cover 2 and cover 4 throughout his college career, both of which the Vikings were second in cover 2 and 9th in cover 4 calls this year. You know, the first play I ever saw of Dwight McGlothern, he was in cover 2. So in cover 2 as a corner, most of the time you're in a hard flat. So even if your receiver goes deep, you sit in the flat and you wait for an out route or a flat or some sort of shallow corner. You're sitting and waiting for there. And the first rep I saw of him, his wide receiver went deep. So he shoved off his receiver and kept his eyes on the QB. QB came to throw the flat, and he came right down and picked it off and went for a pick 6. Like Travis Hunter style play that we saw against UCF with him, right? Which we'll clip that somewhere on here, I'm sure. I'll get that clip for you. But like that level of play and extinction. And kind of like I talked about Joe Andreessen last episode as a linebacker for the Bills, you kind of have that same opportunity for Dwight McGlothern, where Jeff Okudah, who I loved in college, has not panned out in the NFL and has proven he is not a good outside corner in the NFL, which, granted, with Brian Flores, that might help, but we'll see what happens. But Jeff Okudah, I'm not going to bet on him. Mekhi Blackman is coming back from a torn ACL, so we'll see what happens with him. So Dwight has a perfect opportunity to take over one of those 2 spots opposite Byron Murphy and say, look, I'm going to be the corner on the other side. I'm going to get targeted more than Byron because Byron's a good corner and teams aren't going to target him. Let me make plays like I showed when I was at Arkansas, and let me just get after it. And I think he will be really good in this style of defense, especially being zone heavy, having savviness in zone coverage, especially in cover 2 and cover 4, which the Vikings run more than almost anybody else in the league, right? Like, I think he would be perfect as the quarterback 2 opposite Byron Murphy. He's also, I believe he's 6'2", 200, where Byron's like 5'11" or 5'10". Like, he's the perfect opposite corner to be a Byron Murphy, right? Like, I might have the sizes a bit wrong, but I'm actually going to pull that up while we're talking about it. But, man, like, he wasn't my favorite corner in that class, or he wasn't my top corner, but, man, he was friggin' good at Arkansas, dude. Let me see. So, Dwight McGlothern size. Yeah, he's 6'2" and 185. So, not 200. He might be 200 now with NFL weight on him after a season, but, like, 6'2" opposite Byron Murphy, who's 5'10". Let me see. Size. Let me see. Of course, it's going to give me Byron Murphy from Texas and not Byron Murphy, Washington size. Kind of going up. Yeah, 5'11", 190. So 2 completely different archetypes of corners. Brian Flores is going to love that and take full advantage of that, I think.
Yeah. And so the burning question for Detroit, I might throw another curveball at you here. Or sorry,
That's
for
fine.
Minnesota, from Minnesota, I might throw another curveball out here. They lost both games to Detroit in the regular season. That's why I got confused with Detroit there. Week 7, they lost at home, 31-29, and then they finished out the season with a 31-9 loss at Ford Field. So they let up the same amount of points, but they scored less in their second encounter. What can Minnesota do to get at least one off of Detroit? Maybe just get the one at home.
Not have Sam Darnold play in a critical game where you're trying to win the 1 seed, which JJ McCarthy has proven he can do in the Rose Bowl and in the college championship, regardless of what the box score says. He was still critical in both of those wins. Having the added athleticism of JJ McCarthy and having a better offensive line. They brought in 2 of the Colts offensive linemen. They brought in Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze, and then you draft Donovan Jackson, who has tackle and guard flexibility out of Ohio State. Like, if Christian Darrisaw gets hurt like he did last year or isn't 100%, Donovan Jackson can plug in a tackle and you can fill in a guard with another player. And this offense is still going to click on all cylinders, where last year they lost Christian Darrisaw. They kind of scrambled. Sam Darnold played a little bit worse. And then you play a Lions team that blitzes heavily, runs man coverage heavily. And if you hesitate for a half second like Sam Darnold did, you end up in a 31-9 game and you lose out on the 1 seed. JJ McCarthy is not going to have that problem. If that situation happens again with second-year JJ McCarthy, I think the Vikings make that more competitive, and I think they might win with this offensive line and how this offense is schemed. And now remember, Jordan Addison is going to be more fresh than the rest of the offense because he's got the first 3 games off with the suspension, right? Like, he can still practice. He can still be a part of meetings. Like, he is going to do well towards the back half of this season, and that's going to help J.J. McCarthy because teams are going to blanket, Justin Jefferson, and instead of throwing to Ty Felton and Jalen Naylor, he's going to have a really good wide receiver too. Like, J.J. McCarthy elevating this offense is going to be such a big focal point for the Vikings that a lot of people aren't expecting. Again, I don't think they're going to win the division, but if, let's say, both teams are 13-3 going into week 18, I don't think they play in week 18, but let's say it's week 16 or 17 or whenever they play. You can look this up for me. But if it's the second matchup between those two and they have the same record, I trust J.J. McCarthy more to run this offense and carry the Vikings to win than I trust Jared Goff running a brand new Lions offense.
So their first meeting, it's pretty crazy. So their first meeting is week 9 in Detroit. And then their second meeting is going to be Christmas Day, week 17 on Netflix in Minnesota.
Dude, that's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah,
that's
a fantastic game.
And at home, you better hope the Vikings win that one.
Yeah, 3:30 p.m. kickoff for that one.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love football Christmas, man. That was an awesome change of pace this year. Like, even though, like, the Texans got worked and the Steelers got worked, like, that was still really fun to watch.
I don't love it. But,
well, you're a basketball guy. So.
I'm a basketball guy. I like, even outside of me being a basketball guy, not to get off on, like, a side tangent here.
Oh, that's fine.
Like, I just think it's better when sports kind of respect each other's ground in terms of holidays.
Interesting.
Like Thanksgiving belongs to football. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day belong to college football. You know what I mean? I think Christmas Day belongs to basketball, except if Christmas Day is on a Sunday. If Christmas Day is on a Sunday,
it's a football
free reign because Sundays belong to the NFL.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's
go ahead. Sorry.
Like, what I was going to say is, like, it's one of those things where I think we should think of it as a treat when we got a big NFL day and a big NBA day on the same day, not just kind of expected because every single league is constantly fighting for eyeballs, right?
Absolutely.
It's a current, like, thing that I don't really love about this current sports media landscape. It's like no one's really giving each other room to breathe, and everyone wants to be a 24/7 365 sport. And I think the general watching population doesn't really want that as much as the leagues want it to be.
Well,
But
that's what happens when you have a capitalist society. That's just me. Sorry, not to get into politics, but let's go to the Packers, huh?
yeah, let's talk about the Packers.